I was befriended by a guy who wanted to argue with me all the time about theology and the Bible. You ever had one of those friends? I'm very thankful for that, actually. This wasn't like unwelcome, but there's also something else you need to realize. And maybe this is just a guy thing. You ladies can tell me afterward, but guys always want to win the argument. I saw some ladies be like, not just a guy thing. So I wanted to win the argument. And to win the argument, what do you have to do? Well, you have to know more than he does, right? So in our debates and discussions and arguments, he would say something, I'd be like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to study that so I can win the argument next time. So we all get into the Bible for different reasons, but that's one of the reasons I started studying more seriously the Word of God. I wanted to win these arguments. Turns out, unfortunately, the guy was right about most everything. Always frustrating. But I'm thankful for our friendship because that was my first entry point into a life in which I decided I was going to study the Word and teach the Word and preach the Word full time if I could. I wanted to enter the ministry. So I ended up going to a Christian college in Austin. That's where, as I mentioned last time, I had Latin and then Greek and Hebrew and some other classes. And the more that I began to dine upon this feast of the Word of God, not the fuller I become, but the hungrier, the more I want it. And then I got to seminary, and this was a dream come true because all we did, no matter what the class was, church history, pastoral counseling, Greek, Matthew, Hebrew, whatever it was, we were sitting just like you're sitting at tables now with your plates full of food. That's what we were doing every day, except our plates were full of dogmatic theology and historical theology and pastoral theology and Bible this and Bible that, and we had chapel every day. And I went to a seminary where it wasn't like the professors were over there and the students were over here and neither shall the two meet. No, we were hanging out all the time. I got to know my profs really well. They got to know us really well. There was a great camaraderie. I was loving it. I was soaking this in, so much so that over the course of eventually 4 or 5 years being there, the more that I watched the profs do what they did, take us into a deep dive into the Greek of Matthew 12 or the Hebrew of Genesis 1 or whatever it is, the more I saw them doing what they were doing and how much I loved it, the more I began to think in terms of an ultimate goal of my own. Not to be a pastor in a congregation, but I wanted to be a professor at the seminary. See, not only did I fall in love with the Bible and with theology, but also I began to fall in love with kind of the academic approach to all of this, which isn't all bad. There's plenty of good things about the academic approach, but I began to really fall in love with that. And here's something very important. I began to formulate in my own mind a plan for who I wanted to be. Okay, you get that? It's important. In my own mind, I had a goal, my plan, and I knew what I wanted it to be, and thus I also knew what I needed to do to get there, the plan. And what I wanted to be, of course, was a professor. I wanted to teach Hebrew. I wanted to teach Old Testament. And at this time, I was in my mid-20s. So what happened was I finished seminary, I graduated, and I received a call to a very small Lutheran congregation in Wellston, Oklahoma.